We want this to be a hub for families in the community. Everybody has been excited about this project from the beginning. I want to get away from the stigma of a children's museum is just for little kids. We'll have the space and the opportunity to open it up to all ages. We really want to bring in those middle schoolers and high schoolers and older people, because my philosophy is that if you are living and breathing, you can learn at any age.
You're listening to Find the Good News, episode 133, The Wonder Years, a good conversation featuring Allyson Blackwell Montgomery, Executive Director of the Children's Museum of Southwest Louisiana. Find the Good News is produced by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. See what else we do at parkerbrandup.com. I often think fondly on my childhood, when my young mind relished in the thrill of discovery, the joy of stumbling upon something new through play, and the quiet spark of curiosity that grew into awe and wonder. These special moments where learning and imagination meet have been the foundation upon which many of my lifelong passions took root and flourished. And it is a comfort to know that there is a place that is working passionately to provide the impetus for future generations to have that same creative platform. In this episode of Find the Good News, I had the privilege of speaking with Allyson Blackwell Montgomery, the Executive Director of the Children's Museum of Southwest Louisiana. Allyson holds a deep and inspiring conviction that through learning, we grow, and in growth, we find the power to change the world. Her work with the Children's Museum is driven by the belief that every curious question, every shared discovery, and every child given the space to dream brings us closer to a better, brighter future. Her passion is woven into the museum's next great chapter, their soon-to-open home at Port Wonder, a state-of-the-art facility located on the lakefront in downtown Lake Charles, Louisiana. Port Wonder will be more than a destination. It will be a sanctuary of exploration, connection, and hands-on learning for children and adults alike. The Children's Museum of Southwest Louisiana invites children and families to step into a world where hands-on learning is expansive and exciting. Sharing space with the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries Nature and Science Center, it offers a rare opportunity to experience the intersection of education, environment, and play. As Allyson and I spoke, it became clear that this vision for the Children's Museum in Port Wonder is deeply personal. For her, it's about more than just exhibits and programs. It's about creating a place where the seeds of curiosity can take root, where learning becomes a lifelong adventure, and where families can reconnect with each other and the magic of discovery. So, I invite you to sit with me in this heartfelt conversation with Allyson Blackwell Montgomery and explore the inspiring mission of the Children's Museum of Southwest Louisiana, its incredible new home at Port Wonder, and the transformative belief that when we nurture curiosity and promote lifelong learning, we grow, and through growth, we literally change the world for the better. Now, let's cue the music and press play on a little good news. Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you want to shut those channels down and seek a better source. With Find the Good News, I tune into good people doing good works wherever I can find them. I scan the signals looking for educators and students, scientists and spiritual leaders, writers, musicians and artists, business owners, volunteers, and active citizens who offer their time, resources, and talents to build a better world for others. In each episode, I tune into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. I uncover the critical life experiences that shape them, the principles that guide them, and the foundational philosophies that keep them on their path of goodness. There's a lot of news, and it's a noisy world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm cutting through the static to find the good.
I've enjoyed just being here with you. Like right off the bat, it was like a big smile on your face, and I don't know, just an excited energy that you brought already, and we haven't even been recording. And I don't know, I kind of like that. Not everybody's super excited to get behind the microphone.
Oh, well, I like to talk and visit. And
okay, that's good.
One of our first projects that we worked on together was the artwork for one of our Imagination Celebration events.
Yes.
And we actually won an Addy. You won the Addy.
Well, yeah, but step back, it was y'all that won, but that's still, I appreciate you bringing that up because I was going, what projects did we do with her?
Yes,
And imagination.
it was under the sea, and
Yes.
so
Had all the little sea creatures,
yes,
the little yeah, I remember
yes.
that.
It was a fun night that we had, and the artwork that you produced was phenomenal.
I always liked that project. I think we did, and I don't know if we won every time, but I think I got to work on that a couple of times, and I know each time it was a theme, but I do recall there always being a cool die cut element to it because it was the mailer would fold a certain way, and so that was always a lot of fun. I've actually found that we don't get as many folks that are as interested in doing the die cutting anymore because I guess the time frames, it seems like the decision making time frame has amplified, it's or cycled up. We're going, okay, you get a design, it's got to get to production so much faster than it did before, so when you start to try to sell a die, it slows it down and the time wall just isn't there.
Yeah, I think the whole production of the die cutting is different now too, so
yeah, that's true.
It's not done the same way that Mr. Chuck Ellers used to do it.
That's right. That's right.
And he always printed our invitations for us for our fundraisers.
Yeah, he was such a loss actually, and just touched so many people and really supported so many entities in Southwest Louisiana.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he was every single year he was on top of whatever I needed. He would even remind me, "Hey, Allyson, when are we going to talk about this?" and what do we have coming up the pipeline that we can help you with? So
yeah,
awesome, generous person for our community.
Yeah, you're right. Chuck was good for businesses, good for the community, and then he was also just good for people on a real down-to-earth individual level. I mean, Michelle and I immediately, when we heard the news, your memories just started getting engaged, and you're like, oh my gosh, he had some real pivotal experiences with him, and to be honest, I mean, for she and I, thinking back, we were like, he kind of was a really solid link in the chain of us even getting together. Aww. Because we were really just friends at that point, and he was involved in something that kind of allowed us to get closer, and in that closeness, realized that there was something more happening than friendship, and I can't ever really forget that, honestly, because I mean, if I look at my children, Michelle and I's son, may or may not have happened had that little moment with Chuck not taken place. So, people matter so much. In fact, that kind of gets to the root of why we're doing this show. Not to put too much pressure on you, but I mean, it's about people, right? I mean, we all have big brands. I mean, we work in that business, and everybody sees the brand out front, the colors, the logo, and the story that we put out there. We were talking about public relations before we recorded, and there is that, right? And that does suffice. It helps. It's good for the community, but there's always a heartbeat behind everything. There's a person that's committed to something or believes in something. And when I keep a running list, a lot of people don't realize this, but any good show, I guess, has got a target list. You're like, who is on my radar? Who haven't I talked to? Who's doing something good? Who's got a story? And I had your name on my list, And I was kind of holding off because I said, well, I know the Port Wonder thing's going on, and I was following the news, essentially. Every time some new piece of information would come out, I'm like, well, maybe now's the time, maybe it's not. But based on some of the things I was seeing, I said, okay, they're getting close, pretty close. So maybe she'll do it now, because I thought too early, too late. So anyway, I was like, I got to talk to Allyson. I just don't know when the right time is. So hopefully this is the right time.
It is. It's a very exciting time in the history of the Children's Museum. Our organization has been in the community for 35 years,
Wow.
Almost 36. Something like that. So it was a project that was started by the provisional class of the junior league,
Okay.
back in the late mid 80s. And it started out as just the provisionals wanting to bring the concept of a children's museum to the lake area. They did a lot of research, a lot of homework. They visited other museums that were popping up, because that's kind of the time frame that museums started, happening in the world of children's museums, was, late 70s, early 80s. And so they were thinking, we need to bring this to Lake Charles and to the kids in the community, and why not Lake Charles? And so they started in the basement of Central School.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
With just a few exhibits, and it opened back in 1988. Officially, and I mean, it's been going strong. We've definitely had a few hurdles here and there with hurricanes and a fire, location changes, but we're coming back better and stronger than we ever have before, I think.
So that's interesting to hear, and I guess I'm trying to search my own memories and experiences with the Children's Museum and recall when I first encountered it. It had to be through my children. I do remember that, going to birthday parties and things like that there. But I remember vaguely the first time someone said, well, the party's at the Children's Museum. It's some invitation one of my kids got. And I was like, what's a children's museum? I had no idea. And so when I went, I thought, wow, this is a really cool fusion of things. I mean, it's interactive. That was something new at the time that I had never experienced before. But it still had... and this is going to sound terrible, but it almost had a little bit too of a playground kind of vibe, but at the same time, educational, right? And I thought, this is really, really neat. And so I guess out of my own ignorance, when I would travel and see children's museums in other places, I was like, oh, I was so, caught up in the fact that we had one. I didn't realize that they were popping up all over the place, and that maybe we weren't the first, but it was sort of a movement, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely became a movement back in the late 80s, early 90s. Larger cities started having them pop up here and there all over the country. And I mean, now you can find massive ones that are several city blocks.
Wow. Yeah.
Or you can find one in a small town that is, only a couple hundred square feet, but they make the best of it. A children's museum is there to provide children and families and teachers a way to educate kids outside of the classroom. It's a way for them to engage and interact with others and learn through play. One of the biggest things that is important for a young child, especially in those toddler years and those preschool years, is to learn through play. People don't realize that whenever they're grabbing for a toy, they're learning how to use those muscles in their fingers. They're making those connections in their brain and in their memory of how, cause and effect happens. You may have the same results if you put that ball on that track of it going down and bouncing at the end, but you do that several times before you realize, especially as a young child, that the result is going to be the same every single time.
Yeah.
And then as you get older as that child, you start to think, well, how can I change that reaction? What can I do to that track or to that ball to make it either go slower or faster or pivot and go a different way? And so you really learn a lot by just experiencing different types of toys and exhibits and movement and interaction with others. You learn how to communicate whenever you're playing with another child. You learn how to share and take turns. And you do all of those things inside of a children's museum. And that doesn't even go into the actual programming side that a children's museum offers. That's just in the exhibits that are stagnant, that are there every single time you come. But a young child, their memory is not as good as an older child. And so they have to come multiple times before they start to remember, hey, this is right here and this is what this does. And so for a young child, they may come and experience something brand new every single time they come. And our job as the Children's Museum, our staff, is to make sure that we are able to bring fresh, interactive things to those classic museum stations that are just not rotating, that, we may have the market, but we put a different interactive in it.
Right.
We
Okay.
make a bit different game. We mix up the fruits and vegetables that are in the exhibit that day. Or we have a worksheet for them to complete, or a puzzle that goes with the activity. And so each exhibit that you have in a children's museum, you can mold to where it's fresh and exciting each time they come. And then here, we're going to just have activities that we have on rolling carts that on a random day, we might pop up and say, hey, we have this special activity today. Do you want to come and play? So we'll have, all kinds of programs. We'll have things for all ages too. So we'll get to that in a second.
So that's something that's interesting, listening to you describe that and the different developmental stages of children. It makes me wonder, do you have adults who come to the Children's Museum? Have you witnessed that, where they're almost re-stimulated by something and they too are like going, oh, wow, I actually didn't know this, or this is doing something for me at a level that you go, wow, that's interesting. They're having the same experience as the child.
Always.
Always?
Always.
Yeah.
So the thing I love about a children's museum is that you can enjoy it at literally any age. You can enjoy seeing the excitement and awe and that, light bulb click on in your child or grandchild or niece or nephew whenever you're bringing them. But these simple concepts relate back to bigger things in everyday life that you know happen, but you don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
And so we have several exhibits, that show different things with chemistry and physics and mathematics, and it as an adult on a certain level, but a young child is you're learning the basics. And the beauty of it is that as the child ages, they grasp a new concept from that same exhibit. And so whenever we get ready to open our new home inside of Port Wonder, we plan to have activities for different age groups. And
Okay.
so we'll have things that are simple for preschoolers. We'll have stuff that gets that young elementary age. And then we'll go up, to that upper elementary age group and kind of group together several grades. And then middle schoolers, they'll be able to come in and get some concepts in a different way. Then whenever you get to high school and college, you can even come in and see how you just look at it from a whole different perspective, which is really cool.
It's interesting. I'm thinking about this whole interactive concept, and it's so common, I guess, now when you go to a museum for that to be the case. But it really wasn't. I mean, when I was younger in junior high, we went to the in Houston, was it called the History and Natural Science Museum?
Yeah.
Anyway, it wasn't interactive like it is now. We've went in the past years, and I'm like, wow, it's so many more things for you as an adult and for the kids to engage in as an exhibit. And
Yeah.
I think back and I go, yeah, that wasn't a thing when we went to NASA when we were kids. It wasn't like that. There was displays, but it wasn't something where you could touch it, do it, get in it, experience it. And so it does remind me of what is going on with the Children's Museum, but it makes me wonder, is that just a movement in itself, not just for children's museums, but that people learn better when we can experience it, when we can touch it and get involved in it?
Yes, I think so. And all people learn differently. You have some that are visual. You have some that are, more of a touch and feel and do. I think I looked it up one day, and there are like 16 different classifications on ways people learn. And we try to hit as many of them as we can here at the museum by, repetition and visualization, whether something is color coordinated or has a certain mathematical pattern to it. All of those things different people grasp in different ways and learn from.
Need a brand boost? Parker Brand Creative Services is your go-to team. From graphic design to video production, we craft your vision with precision. Visit parkerbrandup.com and let's build a great brand together.
So you told me when we were visiting off pod that you've been with them for 18 years with the Children's Museum.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm very curious to hear what your path was to that. Like, was that on purpose, or was there a little, any fluke to it? Any just sort of overlapping things that just happened for you to be drawn in? Because you're really passionate about it. Obviously, I mean, I can tell the listener may not be able to tell, but you're smiling and bright about it, so it's obviously something you care about. But
Yes.
did you start out caring that much about it?
So growing up, I always told my parents, you know, every parent asks their kid, well, what do you want to be whenever you grow up?
Yeah.
Well, as a young kid, I used to say a lawyer.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Even as a young, okay.
A lawyer. I don't know why. And then all through middle school and high school, it was a meteorologist. And I'm still fascinated with weather.
My son is too. That he wants to be a weatherman.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
still, he's been doing that for years. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, well, I don't want to interrupt this train. So.
Then I kind of was like, oh, well, maybe a teacher. And then I
Okay.
was like, no, I don't know. It just, something pulled at me to go into more of like the marketing, public relations side of things.
Okay.
Just because I love people.
Okay.
I love being able to help people and help the community. And so that was kind of where I was driven. And through high school, I babysat, worked at a, school after hours with their, after school daycare. Whenever I went to college, I tried fashion, merchandising at a local retail store. That was not for me. It wasn't any way that I could give back.
Sure.
And so ended up back at a daycare again very shortly after that. And I, worked all of my spare hours in between my college classes at the day school.
Okay.
And I loved being with the kids. And then whenever I decided and really declared public relations, as my concentration and mass communications as my degree program, I was very, very fortunate enough to do my internship with Children's Miracle Network with Miss Potty Shampoo.
Okay. All right.
And so there was the key pivot point of, yes, this is what I'm doing. Yes, this is what I want to do. I want to help raise money for kids in our community. I want to be involved in an organization that, brings joy to children.
Mm-hmm.
And so it lit a fire in me to, no matter if that's what I ended up doing for my career or if that was what I was going to spend time volunteering for, I knew that I was always going to be involved somehow moving forward.
Yeah.
And so after graduation, I graduated from college in 2005 in May.
Okay.
So anybody that I guess is over the age of 35, you know what happened in late August, early September of 2005.
Yeah.
We got hit by Hurricane Rita.
That's right.
I had actually gone on an interview for a marketing position
Okay.
and had gone in for my third interview. It was between me and one other person.
Oh, so you were at the end of the interview stage.
I was at
right.
the end of the interview stage and went
goodness.
in for that interview 2 days before Rita made landfall.
Oh,
And
my gosh.
right after landfall and things had settled down a little bit, the company called me back and they were like, well, we're not going to be able to hire for that position anymore. We have a hiring freeze because of everything going on.
Sure.
Totally understood. And at that time, our community was rebuilding and it was a mess. I mean, we did not bounce back like we did more recent storms, because it was the first one really to hit this
In a
area
long time.
since Audrey.
Yeah, that's right.
Like back in 1956 or 57, I think 57.
Yeah.
So our community was hurting. And so as soon as the daycare reopened, I just stayed working at the daycare because it was income.
Yeah.
And I loved being with the kids. I loved being able to teach them and work with them every day and, show them their colors and their numbers and sight words and all the things, sing songs. But I kept looking for a job because I needed, of course, something that I could put my degree to use.
You were looking for a path forward that would utilize your education.
And more income, of course.
Yeah, sure.
And so a job opening was advertised in the paper for an entry-level assistant director at the Children's Museum. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, it says entry level. Let me find out some more information. So I found out that it would be kind of a management position. They were looking for somebody that would do, small level PR stuff, newsletter, work on flyers, billboards, go on the radio and television from time to time, talk about current events and just, do all that. And so went through the interview process and they found out that I also had fundraising experience through Children's Miracle Network. And so they hired me.
Well, there you go.
And at first it was like, I'm going to take this job and it's something that I'm really passionate about and see where it goes. And if I don't like it in a couple of years, after I've had a couple of years of experience, I'll go find something else. Yeah. And 18 years later, I'm still here.
I love hearing stories like that. I do. I think they're fascinating. You sit down and you think about all the random little things that had to happen. Some of it's just our own choices. Sometimes it's stuff that's out of our control. And then it all just starts to layer together to this path, and you've stayed on it.
My grandmother used to always tell me that God had a plan and that she was sticking to it. And that has been my philosophy my whole adult life, that it's God's plan. I don't need to know why. I just have to follow it.
Yeah, I tend to have this idea that the wording came from a book I just read recently, and I really liked it, and it's called Path Dependency. And it, when you stay on a path long enough, you become path dependent, where it actually is the path itself that's guiding you along, because you don't get off of it and maybe an opportunity, or maybe you had an inkling to make a change, but you stayed on the path waiting a little bit longer, and then the doors start to close for all these random things, and then the path just gets clearer and clearer and more focused. And I was like, I kind of like that, because you can see it in so many people's stories. It's kind of a beautiful thing. It's not a negative thing. It's like honing your skill. You just become better at, hopefully, better and more passionate about what you're doing.
Yes.
I love that. I mean, if you've been doing something for 18 years, that's a long time. So, I mean, you obviously have there's something about it that motivates you.
Yes.
Drives you.
One of the things that I think has been so incredible is, number one, the people that I've had the opportunity to work with and meet. All of the staff that has worked with me at the museum. I had the opportunity to hire all of our part-time employees and watch them grow up, before my eyes, into wonderful individuals that are giving back to our community in multiple ways. Yeah. I had a great executive director and board of directors that, gave me the opportunity to learn and spread my wings and kind of self-teach myself how to do certain aspects of running the Children's Museum. I was able to do a lot of research along the way, and then different hurdles and, things that occurred in the museum's history in the past basically 20 years has also taught me a ton. It's one of those things where you
we talk about Louisianians have grit.
Mm-hmm.
And working for the museum gave me a lot of grit because we've had a lot of things
Yes.
happen.
Let's talk about some of that. I think people that, maybe if you live in this community and you're a listener, you probably know some of these things already, especially if you've been here for any period of time. But we have listeners all over that are inspired by the people who come on all over the country. And, I know some of the things y'all have been through, but maybe talk about some of that. Like what some of your feelings were, what happened, and, how do you find it to keep going? Not just because it's a career, but it takes a little more than that grit you're talking about. You have to find some kind of resilience or strength to move on sometimes.
Yeah, it's never been about my career or what I was necessarily doing. It was more about what I'm doing because the kids in our community needs it. And that's always been my fire. It's not, it's nonprofit. It's not about the pay.
Right.
It's not about the glory. It's, watching those kids walk in the door and seeing their faces light up and seeing how much what we do as the museum for those kids means to them. Being able to have them all leave from a field trip and want to give me a hug before they get on the bus. They're like, thank you. We had so much fun. Those are the moments that make the job totally worthwhile.
Yeah.
That is what drives you in this field, is the joy that you can bring to others. Especially it's what's driven me all these years.
Yeah, you're right, Allison. My oldest boy, when we go back to our photo albums, we have so many photos. This was back before my wife and I were married. We were just dating, but we would take trips to the Children's Museum and we talk about it still. Like some of their pictures, the most wonderful pictures of her bonding with him as a young boy, happened at the Children's Museum. Some of those big smiles on his face, or he's sitting on her hip, and I'm like, God, so wild. I never really put that together until I was preparing to come talk to you. I was like, no, we have pivotal. You use the word pivotal. They were like those kinds of moments, and many of them happened at those exhibits.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I was very, very fortunate. I've been very blessed to have the experiences that I have had through working at the museum. I've had the opportunity to wear pretty much every single hat possible over the time spanned, because whenever you're working for a nonprofit, you don't have the funds to diversify into certain roles. You don't have, a marketing person and a finance person and an exhibit person and somebody to just work on gift shop and just work on supply inventories and planning out programs and art space activities and lesson plans, for school groups, and then doing the actual marketing pieces. And it's just, there's a lot of different roles. Volunteer coordinating, managing the actual staff, being the director of operations, the fundraising. I've done every aspect of it at this point, which I think has been a wonderful thing for me, because I've been able to be a part of the team putting Port Wonder together from the very start. And I've learned even more through that process of working with the Port Wonder team that's, been behind the scenes making this building for our community happen.
Your brand deserves the best. At Parker Brand Creative Services, we build better brands with creative precision. From graphic design to digital marketing, we think sideways, push forward, and get your brand up. Trust the work, not the pitch. View our extensive galleries at parkerbrandup.com.
This kind of hit me the other day as I was watching the tower demolition from the roof of one of the hospitals. And I was thinking, before it fell, and I was kind of thinking about the week ahead, just killing some time. And I was like, okay, I have my pod with Allyson, and I was thinking about this building. And it hit me. I said, now Port Wonder is the most unique looking building in Southwest Louisiana. Because, for a long time, we had that as such a iconic part of the lakefront. But the truth of the matter is, this building I've only seen it from the road. I haven't been up close to it or into it yet until today. And it's pretty amazing. It's so different.
Yes, yes. We are definitely in a very iconic looking building on our lakefront. And I haven't visited every single children's museum in the country, but I would have to probably say that we are definitely one of a kind as far as the shape of our roof, and with this shiny silver aluminum, it's very, very eye-catching and memorable.
Even just, I haven't been into the exhibit area, but just looking through the glass when you came out to greet, I had to ask you, I was like, is this the Children's Museum? Because, it's so different.
It is. It's
so
gorgeous.
It's advanced. Beyond what I really expected, truly.
Yes, yes. So we were very fortunate to work with some wonderful companies from across the country. We worked with Cambridge 7 Architects out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, near Boston.
Okay.
They designed both the building and all of the exhibit designs.
Oh, really?
And then we've worked with 1220 Exhibits out of Nashville, Tennessee. They are known throughout the museum world for their wonderful fabrications, one-of-a-kind installations. And so we have been so very, very fortunate. Thank you to our community partners and donors, sponsors, for being able to put together the funds that we needed to get these people in our neck of the woods to build all of this for our community.
So how did that come about? It seems obvious now that I'm sitting here and I see it inside the building, Port Wonder, but at what point does that begin where it's like, this would be a great fusion. The Children's Museum should be here.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like a natural pairing considering what this facility is going to be.
Yes.
But where does that conversation start?
So it really started with our mayor, Nick Hunter.
Okay.
We had worked with Mayor Randy Roach on moving to a spot along the Civic Center grounds. We had gone through the design process and we're working on building a new facility. I guess let me back up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
So the Children's Museum started, back in the basement of Central School. Small little group of exhibits. Quickly outgrew that space, very quickly. Temporarily moved into the mall.
Oh, okay.
For a little bit.
I didn't know that. Okay.
It was very short-lived, but they did that while they were working on their building on Enterprise Boulevard.
Okay. That's the one I'm more familiar with. Okay.
And so the Enterprise Boulevard area museum, that was basically took up all of the 90s.
Yeah, okay.
We'll call the Enterprise Boulevard the 90s.
Right, okay.
And then that was a wonderful building and location, but over time we outgrew that space too, and we needed more room. We were getting field trips from all of the area parishes. Some started coming from Southeast Texas, and so we just needed a bigger space.
Okay.
And so in 2004,
okay,
the Children's Museum opened on Broad Street.
And that's the one that I think I frequented the most. And that's where y'all were before you're coming here, right? Okay.
Yes, yes. And so the Broad Street location it started as one floor. And then through the next several years, it moved up to encompass all 3 floors. I was hired in 2006. Whenever I was hired, it was the first floor and a few little things up on the second. And then By spring of 2009, we opened the third floor with an art area and a program area and an additional party room because our parties were so popular.
Yeah, I've been to plenty of them there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that opened. We had a grand opening in April on a Saturday. And then April 22nd, 2009, at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call, and the museum had a devastating fire that took place that morning.
Okay.
In the very, very early morning hours. And so we basically had to gut the whole first floor down to cinder block and cement
Wow.
and start over.
That is really unbelievable. I mean, I remember when that happened, and it was kind of shocking.
Yes.
Just the loss of everything that was in their life too, right? I mean, you had some animals and the
Yes,
facility.
we lost several birds, a couple of turtles, and one of our 2 iguanas.
Yeah.
And one of our iguanas did make it. And so we started Save Iggy's Home, our campaign to save Iggy's home.
That. Yeah.
And so, and saving Iggy's home, we were able to rebuild and reopen 8 months later.
Wow.
And
that's
so
really something.
I worked from home during that time on exhibit design and fundraising and just keeping it going somewhat to where we could get back open. And so then we reopened, and we had really gotten the museum to where we wanted it. But at the same time, from the time that fire happened, you know, we had already decided as the museum board that we wanted to relocate to a facility that had green space
Sure.
and better parking, better facilities and accommodations, because we were in a building that was originally the J.C. Penney's building that was built in the early 50s.
So that's what that was. Okay. Okay. I didn't know
Yes.
that.
And so we made the best, you know, that we could do with our home
Sure.
on Broad, but it was not designed for the foot traffic and children, you know,
Yeah.
that we had. Stairs and elevators are not ideal whenever you're dealing with young kids.
Right.
Strollers, you know, all of the things. And so we had started at that project, and then the mayor said, and, you know, well, the BP oil spill has money that Louisiana has to reinvest into educating the public on the importance of our fisheries.
Okay.
And they are wanting or needing to build a facility, and y'all are rebuilding a facility. Rather than y'all being in two separate locations and competing for school buses to come, or having school buses have to go back and forth between you two, why don't we do it in one location, one facility, and do it on the lakefront?
Properties here.
Property was here.
Yeah.
Visibility.
Yeah.
The ease of traffic for visitors. We have green space.
Yeah.
Parking, utilizing the old parking garage that was left from the Harris Casino. So, you know, it was a wonderful, wonderful concept. And so it started.
That's wild. Okay. I was wondering. I wasn't exactly sure what the path was or what the connection was. And it does make sense, you know, when you look at this area right now, what's happening with it. I mean, you've always had the staple there of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Louisiana Department of Wildlife. Isn't that down?
No. They were.
They were, right?
They
Okay.
were. That building was heavily damaged during the hurricane.
Oh, they've moved right down
And
to,
they
okay.
rebuilt over near the old Mallard, near
Yes.
Chenault.
I just updated a map. You're right. I don't know why I didn't remember that. That's right, with them on there in that new location.
Yes, yes. And so they are there, and we do have wildlife and fisheries biologists here on their side of Port Wonder in
Yeah.
the Nature and Science Center, but they are not the field agents.
Gotcha.
That, you know,
It's more of an educational component to
Yes,
it, right?
yes.
Okay.
So
I saw that branding up there when we were in the lobby area, and so I wasn't sure exactly what that was going to entail.
yes.
Yeah, it's a pretty stunning location, and you're right. The green space, I mean, you look right out the back, right next to the entrance to your museum, and you're looking at the lake.
Yeah.
And it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, there's some kind of play area outside too, correct?
Well,
Or there will
so there will be. There will be. We have several things that are going to be happening with Port Wonder. All wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We want this to be a hub for families in the community. Everybody has been excited about this project from the beginning. And so we want to be able to have families come in. I want to get away from the stigma of a children's museum is just for little kids.
Yeah, makes sense.
I want it to be a place where, on a weekday mornings, whenever the kids are in school and we're not busy, we have art classes for senior citizens or yoga.
Yeah.
I want to have young moms that are, have different schedules, or stay-at-home moms come in and do classes that benefit them, or have, things that they're interested in. I want to be able to host camps and workshops over the summertime for high schoolers, teaching, anything from safe sitting courses, financial literacy, calligraphy classes, graphic design classes. We'll have the space and the opportunity to open it up to all ages. Of course, we'll still do summer camps and workshops and activities for all the little kids, but we really want to bring in those middle schoolers and high schoolers and older people. Because my philosophy is that if you are living and breathing, you can learn at any age.
That's true. And the idea of a children's museum, it really gets into something that I tend to do often, and that's go back to my childhood, especially when I'm facing adult things. And that might seem silly to some people, but even one lesson recently that I remembered, and I thought, I learned this as a child, or we all learned it as children. I don't know why as adults we have such a hard time going back to those fundamentals. And it was just being a gracious loser. I look at the adult world that we live in, and I go, gosh, we're not always such gracious losers. Loser doesn't have to be a bad word. Loser can mean you did your very best, but somebody just happened to beat you. And it's okay to lose with some grace. Because we would play t-ball and baseball. And, you practice, you sweat, you really almost suffer to some degree out there on the field. And then you get out there and you do your best. But at the end of the day, when the score's on the scoreboard and your team loses, I can remember those coaches making us go out there and stick our hands out and say, good game. And if you didn't say good game, if you pulled your hand back, they would embarrass you and make you go back out there and say, no, that's unsportsmanlike conduct. Go back out there and do it the right way. And I was like, that's such a simple little thing they're teaching us on the baseball field as kids, but boy, is it not important in the adult world, to just learn it and go, you know what, I'm going to go shake your hand. Good for you. You got it this time. I'll try harder next time, and hopefully I'll get it next time.
Yeah, there's always going to be somebody out there that is better than
Yeah.
you. I mean, that's just the way things are.
That's right. It's very simple, but we just tend to, we walk away from some of these fundamental, simple things that were ingrained in us as kids. And I just think a children's museum, maybe not that exact lesson, but I could see it being a place where as an adult, you can go back and touch things and learn things that were fundamental again to some degree in an interactive way. And it may just be healthy for you, to go, oh, gosh, I had forgotten this. Or maybe it just kicks something off in your brain where you're like, oh, what a lesson that I just needed to uncover again at this point in my life. I mean, I'm 50, and I find going back to childhood lessons so helpful.
Yes.
In navigating the adult world so often.
Yes, most definitely. I walk around, we're installing exhibits and getting things ready to open and trying to put all the little pieces in place and stock materials and those types of things. And I look around and I'm in awe of all of the wonderful things that we have that we will be able to offer the community once we get those stores open.
Yeah.
And it's all thanks to our community partners and our donors. And, you know, it really, really is amazing how through every up and down situation that our community has faced, especially in recent years, we've learned to partner together more. We've learned to help each other more. It's not so much about competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how can we work together to make it better? And how can we teach the next generation to be better?
Yeah.
So we've done that. I mean, the whole concept of the Children's Museum, whenever COVID hit, was, you know, we wanted to be a light. We wanted to show kids that it's okay to be a little scared, and, you know, things are different right now, but they're not always going to be this way. And, you know, better times are ahead.
Yeah.
And then it was really ironic that the campaign that I had come up with for, you know, coming back after COVID, because we lost so many funds, you know, missing out on our field trip season that year.
Sure.
In 2020, that spring, was Be a Light. And then after the hurricane hit and we lost the roof of the facility and water inundated all 3 floors of the museum, we lost about 85, almost 90% of our exhibits and all of our inventory, all of our crafts, cleaning supplies, like just everything was ruined. I wanted to be able to be active in the community as much as possible. And so we just started popping up at every single little, you know, community event we could find. We hosted a huge event in the park that following spring, which we had thousands of families come out. Like, it was crazy how busy we were that day. But we had STEM activities and, you know, outdoor games and Lulu snow cones. They came out. You know, I think Ashley was running around like crazy because we had so many kids that wanted to get out of the house and wanted something fun to do. And we had already come up with a capital campaign for the Children's Museum to be called Here Comes the Sun.
Mm-hmm. Fits with your logo. I love it. Yeah.
It fits with our logo. And, you know, we're coming bigger and better than ever before. And so after the hurricane, you know, Be the Light became Spreading Sunshine.
I love listening to you. I got to tell you, I mean, it's refreshing, honestly. And this is where the podcast for me is the reward, because you brought up several key things that have been sort of like they could be thought of as just like a cloud or almost oppressive, like COVID, the hurricane. And I don't think anybody who hasn't lived through back to back to back to back events like what you have with the Children's Museum, you know, fire, hurricane, pandemic, and then continuing through those things to find it within yourself, to see the light, to be positive, to take a active spin on it, to say, no, we're going to continue to engage. We're going to make our community better with our resources.
Our kids need it.
That we do, and we all do. Like, that's kind of what I'm hearing from you. You know, I hear a lot of out in the sort of public, you know, zeitgeist out there, there's these you hear people say things like, you know, our country's failing, or, you know, it's a failed this, or it's going to be the end of that. And I'm like, well, this language, for me, that language, I'm like, I'm a realist. I like to see things as they are, but I also don't want to play into the darker nature of, you know, being a person. I mean, it's very easy to fall into despair and to give up. when you see things destroyed in front of you, or job losses or deaths or whatever it may be. And being around someone like you and hearing what you're saying, I find it to be infectious. And you're not smoke screening, you're being honest. These things happened, but here's what you do when these things happen. You go back to grit, like you said, but it's a positive grit. It's not like a balled up fist type of grit. It's a helping hand type of grit. And I love that. It just really gives me hope, honestly.
Yeah.
At Parker Brand Creative Services, we work diligently to build better brands. From award-winning graphic design to media placement, we deliver results that speak for themselves. Are you ready to elevate your brand? Visit parkerbrandup.com today.
I think that one of the things that matters to me is, I am a very logistical person. If you give me a great idea, I'm going to play devil's advocate with it and think of A, B, C, D, Y, and Z before I go and say,
it, right?
Yes, let's do this.
Make sure it can afloat.
But with that being logistical, I'm also a realist, because and some of my staff, they'll tell you, Miss Allyson is very blunt and honest. Like, if she thinks that it's not going to work, she's going to tell you it's not going to work. But it's all of the life experiences that I've had, which I think I've had quite a few, no more than the next person next to me. But I go back to, what do I want to teach my girls? I have two girls, one that is 7 and one 13, second grade and 8th grade. And I don't want them to ever feel like they have to become a product of their circumstance.
That's a great lesson. Really.
I want them to say, these circumstances taught me lessons. And how am I going to be better because of them? And that is, the legacy that I want to leave my kids. And I'm involved in the leadership program in Southwest Louisiana this year. I'm actually the leadership chair for the chamber.
Excellent.
Thank you. But just being a part of the leadership program, you always want to leave this place better than you found it. And I probably am not a very positive, optimistic person, but I want to make a positive impact.
Yeah. Allyson, I'm a reader, and I tend to think of books I've read when someone's talking, and there is a term we sound a lot alike. And I am also not a very positive person. I would even say that people would maybe even say I probably lean a little towards the other side. Like, I tend to see the faults and flaws and cracks and fissures first. I prefer to think I'm a realist. But I read a book called Optimistic Nihilism, and that book was kind of what you're describing, believe it or not. It was like, look, I see things just as they are. Doesn't mean I'm not optimistic, though. Doesn't mean that I'm not willing to put the work in to make them better, but I want to admit where the flaws are and the faults are, because if we need to work towards repairing those or making them stable again.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's positivity, and it don't come off that way when you're saying, "Hey, this needs to be fixed. This isn't correct. We got to get back on track here. This isn't going to happen." People can see you as negative, but it's not.
You can't make things better if you don't address the negative.
Sure.
You have to fix it. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the dedication and the time.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to roll up your sleeves to make it the best that it can be.
Yeah.
We don't have magic wands, and I don't think that it's fair to teach our kids that magic wands, make everything better.
I totally agree.
Kids need to see, no, you have to do X, Y, and Z before you can get to the finish line. I don't know, that's like really off topic for the children.
No, well, is it though? I mean, I don't know. I mean, You know, if and I haven't seen the exhibits, but I can imagine if they have anything to do with cause and effect. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
that they're
No,
granted
like,
there is the random fluke, but cause and effect is the world, right?
yes. So I want to talk about our exhibits
Please do. Yeah.
because they are phenomenal. We have all of the exhibits kind of sectioned off into 4 stations
Okay.
or 4 galleries.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we have the nature gallery, and the nature gallery, of course, talks about the world around us. What, you know, what do we have in our community? What's in our backyard? So, of course, we have Sportsman's Paradise. You walk in, and it's kind of like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids experience.
Okay.
We have a large ant climber where the kids or the ants, and
That's
they
cool.
climb through. They learn about what ants do for our environment and that they're not just pests. They help irrigate the soil and decompose things. We have a vegetable pollinator garden. We have a water cycle table that talks about our Earth's water and all the different ways that water can be diverted. We have an alligator's nest where the kids can learn about how an alligator's nest decomposes in the summer heat in the marsh and whether the egg is on top or bottom, you know, then dictates whether the alligator will be a male or a female. And so they really get to learn a lot about nature that, you know, you don't think about
Yeah.
otherwise.
And that creates an appreciation.
Yes, most definitely. Definitely, you know, protecting our earth, protecting our planet, not littering, being conservative with water and just our natural resources, all of it.
Yeah.
And so then our second gallery is our health gallery. And our health gallery talks about our 5 senses and how those 5 senses work together to give you clues on how to take care of your body, how to experience the world around you, whether it's, you know, something smells bad, don't go near it, or something feels too hot, don't touch it. Something, you hear a sound, it's giving you a warning, or it's, you know, a way to enjoy something, you know, so you get to learn all about your senses and how those work together. And then once you go in a little bit further into the health gallery, then you get to experience and learn about our body systems.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And those are really cool. Our body systems, you know, we have Mr. Bones back. So people that might remember old Mr. Bones bicycling skeleton,
Yeah.
he is coming back.
Oh, wow. Is it
Port
the
Wonder.
original or just reimagined?
He's reimagined.
Okay.
And so, you know, the kids can cycle on the bicycle next to the skeleton doing the same thing to watch how the bones are moving and interacting.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know, and then we have a digestive maze, a heartbeat trampoline, and a few other surprises.
That's so exciting. I wonder how many people are going to just, I mean, you know, it's going to happen. Just, I'm fascinated with the kids, but the adults, I don't know
Yes.
why, but I just think it's amazing when an adult goes, I can't believe I didn't know this.
Yes.
And I didn't know that this was what this did. Or, and this is sad, really, but I've discovered this as I've gotten older that you really, and again, I won't speak for everybody, but I know this has been my experience, is you start paying attention to systems when there's a problem. Right? Like,
yeah.
so health, you know, you think you know something about health until you get a sick parent who has an illness. Then you're like, okay, now you're paying attention. Or you get an illness and it's like, okay, now I'm paying attention how these different things, how the pancreas works, how this works, why these things happen in unison, what this kind of food does. That kind of thing is fascinating now. But I think about the large chunks of my life where I was just floating through, just not paying attention.
I mean, the world is so chaotic and so busy. You don't take time, you know, that old phrase, stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
And so there's so many things that we take for granted. And so here, you know, we want kids to learn some of these basic concepts and see them and imagine them in different lights to where as they grow up, they may be able to, you know, one day sit and a conference room and a meeting and go, oh, wait, yeah, I remember that. And I remember that best from observing it at the Children's Museum.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Well, I can see this in my own kids too. I mean, and I'm sure my parents saw it in me. You as technology begins to become more and more embedded in our lives, we
Yeah.
do find we're disconnected from natural processes more and more. So
Yeah.
having a place where a child can go get re-emerged in it and interested in it, it's just like, you brought up meteorology. I think about my son when he was really little, just that first encounter with information about weather science, and he was like, oh, that's interesting. And then he begins observing, and then it blossoms into this stage now where I'm going, my kid is basically a weatherman. I mean, without
Oh, yeah.
without formal training, and I'm fascinated by his interests
Mm-hmm.
and knowledge. And I'm like, look at what happens when we present our young people with information. Just
Yeah.
give it to them. They can figure it out, and they will. You watch it
Yes,
happen.
most definitely. So, and I think that then goes back to our next gallery, and really all of the galleries. All of the galleries, the purpose is to inspire ideas for future careers that give back to the community.
Yeah.
We need healthcare workers. We need people in, our ecosystem to protect our natural resources. And then our next gallery is our tech gallery. So, of course,
Okay.
you learn all about what our local industries, some of them do. Our tech gallery, we divided it out into different sections. And so the first section is light. And so you learn how light interacts with surfaces, and that's how you see images. Is those light particles bouncing back and refracting, in different ways. Sometimes it distorts the image, sometimes it flips it. And then that goes back to our health gallery. We have a giant eyeball. And so we learned that the retina actually sees, you see everything upside down, but your retina then transposes it to where it gives you the right side up image. But so then we have, so light is the first one. Then our next exhibit area is actually with Sasol.
Okay.
And so we learn about plant safety and chemistry.
Okay.
And Sasol is, they make all kinds of chemicals and things, but one of the things they do is make surfactants.
Yes, that's right.
That go into bubbles and
That's
detergents.
right.
And so we have our bubble trays. We have bubbles in our Sasol area for the kids to play with. Then we go into our next area, which is simple machines. And so we have a giant lever and a giant Archimedes screw.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And a density column is next. Then we go into air. And so we have an air maze and a wind tunnel and a Bernoulli cannon. And then our next section is engineering and construction. So we have a large rigamajig set and
cool.
a keystone arch. And then our last area is physics, and that is with Phillips 66. And so we talk about, extracting crude oil, refining it in the distillation column, how the distillation column actually works and makes all the products and materials that we use in everyday life that we don't even think about.
Sure.
You have oil in crayons, in batteries, in basketballs. Oil is used to make rubber. So there's all kinds of things. It goes well beyond just jet fuel and gasoline and diesel.
Sure, it's easy to take for granted just in any room or anything.
Yes,
all the equipment we're sitting with today. You have to
Right.
really think about would any of that, be.
So, and we teach kids about viscosity and density. And then we have several of our raceway exhibits reimagined. And so those are
that's cool.
tracks. And we talk about deceleration, acceleration, momentum, and centrifugal force.
Well, that's really
So,
something.
yeah.
I bet y'all are excited to get open and just start getting the tours in too,
Yes,
right? The
yes.
school tours.
But I mean, all of those words, all of those concepts, you don't really get to learn those until middle school and high school. And
Right.
so we're showing those key concepts of physics and chemistry and science and engineering, all the STEM to the younger kids. We are inspiring them and teaching those concepts, but breaking it down. But that's where it comes into, you notice and learn something on a deeper level at each age that you come.
I think I'm seeing that too. I mean, I guess everyone would agree with that. We are seeing something different in the world right now because of even YouTube. There are so many makers out there, and I know my kid is just fascinated with that. I mean, and they are trying to teach those engineering concepts and utilizing chemistry and science and just mind-blowing things that I go, wow, I don't remember learning these things in school, and if we did, it was in a book,
Right.
and we maybe moved on to the next thing. But it's so fascinating how we have access to that kind of content now, and even this morning we were eating breakfast waiting to go to school, and we got on the subject of cold fusion. It had come up in something, and I was like, I don't really know if we all really understand what they're talking about. So we just watched like 3 or 4 cold fusion videos, and I thought, what a world we're living in.
Well, and now kids can just say, "Hey Alexa" or "Hey Siri,"
right?
What is cold fusion, and have the information at their fingertips.
That's right. It's pretty wild.
So
it's a luxury.
Incredible, because back whenever I was a little kid, I mean, I'm not that old, but in the early 80s, you went and you grabbed the encyclopedia.
Oh, so true. I mean, I go to my
or you went to the library.
My grandmother's home. She's passed, but how your memories when you're a kid, everything's so much bigger. And I can still go there. There's an old bookshelf there with this sliding glass door, and on the bottom row is this set of encyclopedias. And I brought my son there. I go, you see those? I said, when I was little, I would lay right here and just go pay. They had little illustrations in them. I said, this was essentially like the internet, but you didn't go into it looking things up. You just flipped the pages and saw a topic, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Wow.
This is so cool.
That was what you did. And I said, it was sort of just a random discovery of things, but that was your access to the world. Or I can remember.
Yeah, we didn't have computers in our homes
I had
back in
this
the
little
early 80s.
green box. It was like a recipe box, and my grandmother had subscribed to some kind of nature magazine, and I would get a little pack of cards every month or something, and it would be different animals from around the world. And over the years, I had a big stack of them. And then her next door neighbor, he had a subscription to National Geographic, and so when I would spend the night with her, he would save them all up, and I used to get so excited. I was like, oh, here he comes, and he would come in to drink coffee and visit my grandma, and he would bring me this box of National Geographic.
Yeah.
And so I would pull the maps out and spread them all out, and I can remember my grandmother making me read to people. She'd be like, hey, come in here and read. He's such a good reader, and she'd make me sit there and read out loud to, how adults are. But I think back to that world, and yeah, it's so different compared to now. I mean, I guess the internet for me was National Geographic or encyclopedias, just like you said, or going to the library or something.
Yes.
And I hate to say it, apathetic, but there are times when I'm just so used to just being able to go online and just search any subject up or get information that I pine a little bit for that world. The
Disconnected.
I liked, there was this
Unplugged.
feeling of a discovery that I do sometimes feel like I miss out on now. Like I go, God, the discovery doesn't feel like it's there like it used to be because it's so instant. But before you had to search, and then by the time you found it, it's almost like it created the appreciation because you searched for it.
It's that aha moment.
That's right. And it gets back, I guess, to like what you've talked about today. Having been through all these things, I'm fascinated when I hear a story like that because it builds an appreciation, right? You probably appreciate where you're at, or this opening in this facility is amazing because you've been through it all. You've seen it all, the ups
Yes.
and downs, the hard work. And to go in there and just, like I said, just me looking at it as an outsider looking in, I go, wow, look how far.
The design concepts, the paint colors, textures, shop drawings, all of the fun side of exhibit building and design I had the opportunity to be a part of, which was incredible. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, being a part of this experience and this project. And on our side for the Children's Museum, I actually got to be the content writer for all of the exhibits.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
So all of the panels and explanations, I got to, I had to research all of the concepts and summarize, to make it fit on these panels, but break it down to where young children could grasp the concepts
That's
of
quite
what
a tall order.
it took about a year to do.
I believe it.
But it was a great experience.
Now you're intimately connected, right?
Yes.
To those exhibits because of that, I'm sure, as a big part.
So, but being able to explain it to the kids and explain it on different levels, to different age groups, it's phenomenal just to say that, I had a tiny part in the project. Because there were so many people involved, but it's really, really something special. And our last gallery space is, something that is famous for all children's museums, is our city gallery. But our city gallery, we took a bunch of the same concepts that we had and magnified them.
Okay.
So we still have a fire area for first responders.
Okay.
So we have a fire truck back.
Nice.
We have a music area. We have our vet clinic back.
Oh, okay.
We have our kids news.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
So we can go in there and pretend like you're a news reporter.
Yeah.
Or a production director or the meteorologist.
Yeah, I do.
And get in front of the green screen.
Right.
You can be Ben Terry if you want.
Oh, gosh. My son says that. Brings him up all the time.
Yes.
He does.
We have back our Cowboy Cafe.
Okay.
And we also have back Sonny's Market.
No, what's that?
Sonny's Market was our grocery store.
Oh, okay. I do remember that. I didn't know what it was called.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes. So,
I saw kids in there playing in that area. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have a couple of new things that we've added. We have Kids Port, which is a phenomenal exhibit area that we have worked with the Port of Lake Charles.
Okay.
And you get to learn all about what they do for industries in our economy in our area, and learn about the ship channel and how special it is and why it's important to maintain it. You get to learn about all of our imports and exports that go in and out of there. And then we have a humongous lighthouse climber.
Oh, do you?
That the kids can learn about budgeting and saving.
Okay.
And we have a program area called Puget Park.
Okay.
And a toddler baby area. That's Calcasieu Crawlers.
And all of that's in there?
All of that is
That is wild.
Yes, yes.
So how big is the space total?
Port Wonder altogether is about 25,000 square feet. So, and then the Children's Museum side, we occupy about almost 70% of the building.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
So,
I was just trying spatially to understand, when you
that
look at it.
does include, of course, some office space and our classroom spaces. But our classroom spaces will have birthday parties. Field trips can utilize those for lunchrooms. We'll have workshops and programs. People can rent those out for meeting spaces. We can do small events. So it's a lot. And then we have a maker space. I forgot about our maker
that's
space.
what I was wondering. Okay, because that's something that seems to be a big push right now?
Our maker space doubles as a STEM area,
Okay.
as well as our art room. So,
I see. Okay.
yes. So the maker space is going to be where all the fun activities happen. Whenever I tell you that it is so well worth the wait,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I cannot wait for families to check out this facility.
Yeah, I was
It's
excited to come
state-of-the-art.
talk to you today, because like I said, I've seen it from the highway and I've had really no reason to come in, but like anything, you get up close to it and you're like, okay, wow, this is really going to be something special. And then just looking at the exhibits, I could tell immediately. I was like, oh, this is a huge, like almost like kind of hard to even imagine.
That Lake Charles has something.
Yeah,
like
it's at a
this.
level I
World
really didn't
class.
expect.
Yes. No, we put in the hours and the research and the work and really wanted to bring something like this to the lake area because our families and our kiddos deserve it. Our kids have been through so much in their very short lives. I mean,
True.
my youngest is 7, and you think back about it, she was 2 years old whenever the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
Pretty much. She was almost 3.
Yeah.
And then we had the hurricane and we lost our home. So we had to move out, rebuild. It took us 2 years to rebuild. So, she was 5 by the time she got her own room back. And she doesn't remember a lot, thank goodness. But at the same time, she has this different appreciation because she's been through all that.
It's true.
And I look at
kids feel
kids
similar.
that were born, during the pandemic and during the hurricane times, and they don't even know of a different world
Right.
pre-2020.
Well,
And so they've never been to the Children's Museum.
right. That's right.
They don't have the memories that the older kids do of going to our old facility. So this place is going to be really special.
I'm excited being around you's made me excited, but I'm excited to come back when it opens and bring my family, you know.
Yes.
I'm excited to get some feedback, people who listen to this and then also come and actually experience and go, oh, how does that line up?
Oh, yeah. I'm excited for you to be able to walk through in a second whenever we get done recording.
Oh, please,
and
for
come
sure.
see it.
I'm excited too.
Hi there, Good News listeners. It's time for Fishing for Goodies, where I take a back seat and let the Good News Fishbowl lead the way. Find the Good News podcast as a personal labor of love using the professional skills and resources of Parker Brand Creative Services. When you share our podcast, you're helping our brand, parkerbrandup.com, reach potential clients. When we're building brands, that helps keep the Good News signal strong. So listen, enjoy, learn, like, and share the good news. Now, let's fish out some good questions for my guests.
This is something we do at the end of every episode.
Okay.
And it's called Fishing for Goodies. And so basically, over the years, this has sort of evolved. It's full of questions. But every guest draws 3 questions.
Okay.
And you can take a look at them, see if you like the questions. Some people will go, yeah, it's not for me. And then you can pick another one. But pick 3
I'm not
questions,
scared.
and then we'll talk about them.
Digging really deep.
That's good. That's the way to do it. I try to mix them up before I get to the location.
Okay. Creative ways you can make money that you're not currently doing.
Okay.
Well, being in fundraising, I try to think of all of those already.
I bet you do. Right.
We actually have some really, really cool things that we're going to be doing for the community to help raise money. One thing that we didn't talk about is we are going to be kicking off a inclusive playground project, fundraising project for our green space in the back.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, because we did talk about that. Okay.
Yes.
That there's
So
gonna be
it's going to be a wonderful playground that's accessible for all. We're working with several organizations that being accessible is very dear and true to their heart. So Children's Miracle Network being one of them. Families for Inclusion, the St. Nicholas Center, we just are working together with all of our community partners to make that happen. So we are going to be doing some fun new things. We're bringing back some of our old events to be able to raise money. We're looking outside of the box on what we can do to, pull in those community dollars as we move forward, because operating, and keeping things cost effective for
Sure.
families is a huge battle that museums face all over our country. Is, how do you balance out the expenses of running your facility and maintaining staff and supplies, especially with inflation and demand like it is right now in
Sure.
our country, but engaging those community partners and just, thinking of ways to do that. Me personally, yeah, I don't know.
No, but I mean, I think that's a relevant question in relation
Yeah.
to your job. What is y'all's biggest fundraiser? Is it still Imagination Celebration? Y'all still
So,
do that?
Imagination Celebration was our annual fundraiser for support for operations and programs.
Okay.
And since we have not been operational, we put that event on hold.
Okay.
It will be coming back once we open. We'll set a date for our first one. It may not be called Imagination Celebration, but it will be, our annual gala fundraiser,
Sure.
our big one.
Right. Okay.
And then we have our annual golf tournament that
Okay.
happens in the spring every year. We'll be doing save the dates and signups for that soon. We have our Kids Create program, which helps us raise money for scholarships for children for our art camps, as well as helps us provide, program materials for art and performance-based activities within the museum itself. And that'll be coming up. We try to hold that the second Saturday of November every month.
Oh.
Every year.
So it's coming up, like you said.
Yes.
soon.
And second Saturday of November, we'll have Kids Create. Then we're working with different industry partners to do, things like STEM Week and, activities just throughout the year. We'll hopefully bring back some different things that we've done in the past too. So, and then we want to have cocktail adult nights
Okay.
because the community's excited and adults want to come and play too. So
Okay. That's
we're
interesting.
going to be, night at the museum type of
Oh, okay.
fun cocktail hour.
I didn't even think about that. I
So,
guess, that's something that didn't even occur to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, so we,
It's
and
a
it,
lot.
and it, let me tell you, if you're a listener and you have an idea on how we can raise money, let me know because we're open to anything.
It's a full-time job raising
is.
money. I mean,
It
that's the
is.
biggest part, I would imagine. I mean,
Yes.
I think that is one of my big takeaways in talking to anybody who's working in a nonprofit is always the sheer amount of different hats that they have to wear.
And you have to be
all the time.
creative. You have to keep be fresh and innovative and new. I've put on fundraising events for 18 years and the community gets tired of going to the same old,
Sure. That makes
suit and
sense.
tie, sit down dinner auction
Right.
fundraiser
The formula.
every single weekend of the year. So
Right.
and we have so many worthy nonprofits that are doing great things in our community, and we're all just trying to help one another out and stay innovative, on top of our game, provide a fun night of entertainment and social activity for the community, but raise money for our organizations at the same time. So we're very fortunate that we have a good group of nonprofits and we're all friends. So
That's good. Yeah, and I'm sure you share ideas. That helps too, having that
yeah, we are always bouncing ideas off of one another and, saying, well, we're thinking about doing this. Have y'all ever tried that? Or what are the pros and cons to this? Or, what kind of events were not successful and why? So,
Right. And
we're-
it's different per community too. I
It
mean, I
is,
do
it
often,
is.
we work in a few different communities outside of Southwest Louisiana, and I do see sometimes, and I get it, you're looking for ideas, but taking a model that maybe works, like let's say in Houston, and then trying to go, oh, we're just going to rebrand it, transplant it into this other community.
It doesn't
it just
always
doesn't
work.
always
No,
seem like it
doesn't.
gels.
It doesn't. You can take some concepts that some of these bigger cities have, and it's not for Southwest Louisiana.
Right.
Or, sometimes it's just not one of the heartstrings,
Yeah.
So,
I know, I get that. That's something that and this is going to sound negative probably, but I get a little bit, maybe jaded's the right word, I don't know, but I'm not a big fan of just transplanted culture, where you look out at what's going on in a popular place and going, oh, well, we need this and we need this and we need this. We need to do these things that they're doing. You see that all the time. And we see it too in marketing, where it's like, okay, well, you got to have X, you got to have Y, you got to have Z. And then it starts to kind of homogenize all these experiences to where everybody's kind of got the same stuff in every community. There's something special about having your own flavor, and just sticking to your own, creating a culture all your own. That's what's attractive, not that homogenous.
I think that's one of the things that's special about our community is we do have lots of flavor. And we have our own flavor. The people that visit Lake Charles will appreciate that part. But
Yeah, for sure.
they do a great job of helping us have lots of flavor.
Yeah, that's true.
And showcasing it. So I've been fortunate to work with them on several occasions and meet a few travel writers throughout the years. And, it's amazing to me that people from different countries across,
Sure.
the world will come to Southwest Louisiana
Right. It is
to
true.
write about us and put us in a magazine. It's like, what? You want to
true.
feature Lake Charles? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It is like there's so many hidden things, and not just here. I mean, everywhere you go, I love finding the things that are off the beaten path because this is really rich stories. And it is unfortunate when you find something that is so rich in experiential for people, and it's just not getting that attention. But then I sometimes ask myself, is the fact that it's not getting the attention what makes it
Special.
And it's like you
hidden
want
gem.
the hidden gem. I mean, it's like a weird balance. It's like you want that, you want the influx of folks and money and dollars and all that so you can do the stuff, but then with that comes sometimes growth that takes away that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a strange thing. I like the side roads and trails and the little towns and, just stopping somewhere.
Yeah. And Lake Charles has so much to offer, especially our surrounding communities. I mean, you go 30 minutes in any direction and you're going to find kind of a different little culture and a different way of life. And I love that about Southwest Louisiana.
Yeah, it's true.
So-
You sure you don't work for the Convention and Visitors Bureau? You sound
Oh, I'm positive. But I love our area.
No, I can tell.
Okay. What was just a phase for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Nobody's ever drawn that one before. What was just a phase? Well, you said you wanted to be an attorney.
Yeah.
Have you always been pretty consistent? Like
I have.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
That's an interesting question, I guess.
Yeah, I have never really had phases. Being a parent is a phase,
I mean, sooner or right. I mean, I guess that's true. Well, and it's phases.
Yes.
That's what I've
Yes,
experienced.
you
Is
go
that you
through
experience your
phases.
children, you're changing, but then your children are going to go through all their phases, and it's like they are new people.
I think
with-
life in general is just
Yeah.
a series of phases.
Sure.
But no, I would say that I don't think that I've had just a phase. I've never, I've pretty
So
much
you didn't
always...
go through like a grunge phase and then like...
Maybe in ninth grade, back in like the mid 90s.
Yeah, let me ask you this then. Let's change the question. This is just for fun. Have you ever went through a cringy phase that you think back on and go, oh, I can't believe I used to like wear this or say this or like this kind of music? Did you ever go through anything like that?
Yeah, probably in ninth grade.
Yeah.
That was back whenever the big oversized overalls and like the
Okay.
choker necklaces were popular for girls to wear.
Sure, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And we were all listening to like Alanis Morissette
Okay.
and
Okay, yeah.
it was the 90s.
Yeah, I know exactly. How old are you?
I'm 42.
Okay. All right. So I was just the reason I'm asking is because I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember the phase. I was like, I was probably a little older.
Yeah, you were probably in college or
Yeah.
just out of college.
But I can
yeah.
remember seeing like, I remember the music. I remember the look you're talking about.
Yeah. It was like, I look back at photos, I'm like, why were you wearing that? It was like Farmer in the Dell Goes Rocker or something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is awesome. I love that description. Farmer in the Dell Goes Rocker. That's good. Yeah.
So that was a phase that I'm glad that I grew out of.
There you go. We got to it. I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay, last card. Where are you currently saying yes in your life when you really should say no?
Oof. Okay, that's a good question.
I really don't have anything currently in life that I feel like it's really weird because I am right where I should be right now in my life.
That's great to hear. It really is.
Like, if you would ask me if there's anything else that I would want to be doing right now, and the answer is no. I mean, I really am happy with my job, my family, my life, my friends. I wish that I had more time.
Okay.
Because I stay so busy with trying to get Port Wonder up and going that I wish that I had more time to just sit back and relax and take it all in, or be more of a hands-on mom, I guess. But I wouldn't trade this experience for anything in the world. And I love doing what I do and all of the community events and partners that we have. Like, I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's so good to hear. It's so easy to, in one practice, a lot of people has making a gratitude list, or pros and cons list, anything like any device like that. It's so nice to actually hear somebody say, that they're happy with their life instead of all the grievances, because you can just count them till the day is long. I'm sure if you really dig down, anybody could find something to complain about, but to actually just go, no, I like my life. I like where I'm at.
I have a
maybe
wonderful
this or
marriage and wonderful children and a wonderful job. And I am so fortunate because there are so many people that aren't fulfilled with where they are in their life. And I can truly say that I am right now. So being able to, come to work and do what I do is so satisfying, and I love it. It is, I guess what I was born to do. I don't know. I may not be the best at it. Who knows? But I love doing it. And being able to go home to my home with my husband and my children and, our cats and my dog, it's what life is really supposed to be about right now. So there were times, where it's like, why do I keep doing what I do, in previous years? But no certain circumstance was like, this isn't what you were meant to do, or this isn't what God wants you to be doing. So I can honestly say that I don't think that I've ever had a moment where I was saying yes and I should have said no, because all of those instances, God put me there for a reason and I learned something from them. And so moving forward and looking back at those life lessons, I'm glad I went through every single one of them.
And that's a good way to look at life, right? To say, okay, no matter what adversity you face, whatever you're going through, as hard as it may be, whatever it is, even the positive things, just go, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? How can I adjust? Yeah. I think if we're not doing that, we're really failing at being better, being better people, just learning, adjusting, watching.
I look back at history and I think about, and even just life. You sometimes question, why am I going through this? Or why is this happening to me? Or why did this happen to them? And I think that every single life circumstance, every single moment that you are alive is for a greater purpose. And there are lessons to be learned in every single moment. And you just have to think, do I want to make this something that affects me negatively? Or do I want to learn from it to be able to avoid it in the future or to help others in the future and to lead others in the future? And so I look back at all of my struggles, and there have been quite a few, especially, even on a personal level that I'm not going to get into on a podcast.
Understood.
I could have said, I'm not worth anything and I'm never going to make it, or gone down a different path in life, one that would not have been anything that I would have been proud of, but just said, I'm not going to let that affect who I am. I'm going to be different because of that. I don't want to be that way because I don't want my children to be a part of that or witness that, or and I think that that's true for everybody. You always have something that you have to overcome in life, and you just have to let go and let God, lean on others that are stronger than you for support, surround yourself by people that are smarter than you so you can learn, and find mentors, and just grow. Every opportunity is an opportunity to grow. Every opportunity you are given in life, you can make it positive. And one of the things that I had on our bulletin board in our office before the museum closed was, be the reason someone smiles.
Mm-hmm.
I want all of our staff to always be the reason someone smiled today. And you don't know what type of day that person is having.
That's so true.
You don't know what situation that kid is coming from.
Right. It's absolutely true.
But if you can make that kid have 5 minutes of joy and smile, then your day was a success.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's so important what you just said. Just understanding that not just kids, everybody is potentially carrying within them, and they may be hiding it, just to get through. They're carrying some kind of pain. No one is exempt from suffering and loss. I mean, we've all lost something or been touched by loss in some way, and I'd challenge anybody to find somebody who hasn't been. And it's so easy. I think that gets into something I care so much about, and that's like the polarization between people, and how I've seen a lot of that, and I'm not the only one in the last 10 years. And I just go, what happens when I humanize instead of polarize? Like, what happens when I see that common thing and understand their pain that they may be carrying?
Oh, yeah.
Then I see them. I don't see them as an other anymore, and that changes things. It really does.
Yeah. You definitely have to be willing to look at all sides and think of the what ifs, but try to overcome. I hope that one thing the Children's Museum can teach children whenever they visit somehow, which is a big task, is you don't have to be a product of your circumstance. You can overcome. You can overcome by, learning. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And there are opportunities to learn no matter where you are in life.
So, if people want to know more about the Children's Museum, I mean, I know you're in transition right now, going to be moving in a new facility, but right now,
yes,
ahead of that, what's the best way for them to engage with your information?
We have our website.
Okay.
SWLAkids.org.
Okay.
That has lots of information on our fundraising efforts. You can go and please make a donation. You can see more about the Port Wonder Project as well as the Children's Museum and our initiatives, our mission. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook because we are popping up and doing activities still in the community every time we turn around. We have several things happening very soon that we definitely want the public to be involved and come out for because they're going to be a lot of fun.
And y'all keep that information posted through your social account?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We're always on social media. Yeah. So social media and website right now are the two best ways to stay informed about, projected opening date and timeline, whether or not we're hiring. We get that question a lot.
Sure.
Are you hiring yet? So all of it is coming soon.
Right. Very soon.
Very soon. And it's been a long journey, but one that, it's been worth the while. It's
going to be worth the while for everybody
Yes.
to come by, too.
Yeah.
Once you are open, I can't wait to come.
I can't wait for you just to come in with the family.
Yeah, that's what I can't wait to bring my son. He's
Yeah.
going to dig it, I think. And Michelle's
Yes.
going to be excited, too.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to another Good News Conversation. If you'd like to learn more about my guests and their good works, visit findthegood.news or visit the links in the show notes. If you found something good in this episode, please subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave an honest review. These small actions help amplify the good news and help us reach far beyond the Louisiana Gulf Coast. I thank you for pressing play and for syncing up with this good news signal.